Good afternoon and welcome to Tree Talk, episode 171 with myself, Jack Neville, and Matt O'Callaghan. We're back for another busy weekend of action. The Hurlers and the Camogie team kick off their league campaigns. We've Fitzgibbon Cup, Sigerson Cups back on. The Hartley Cup final is this Saturday with Arts Kilreach in action. And we already saw the footballers last week against Longford and they're out against Antrim. So stay tuned for preview of all those games and a look back at last weekend's action.
The impression of the game you get out of it, what you put into it's like a walk of life. If you're good enough, go out and get it, no more about it.
But not so much control in the centre of the field from Kilkenny as Richie Bennett sends it high and over the bar.
Your mother sends you down to the shop for a pound's worth of goods and she gives you 50 pence. You can't get the pound's worth of goods, can you?
Just about kept in. Oh, well done, Johnny Buckley. To do that to Tomas O'Shea, he deserves to score from here. One of the highlights of the Sunday game.
Limerick went out there from the word court today. No more about it. They made all the running, that was it. Put the ball over the bar and the back of it, and that's it. No ifs, no buts.
Is there much time left? We have a couple of injuries. Here comes Kieran Carey. Carey leading the charge of the right brigade. 45 metres out. He's a chance to score. He's put it high.
There's no sympathy in this game for anybody.
I suppose good mid-morning to you, Matt, on this Thursday, I suppose the 3rd of February, and we have a load of league action to look forward to. Last year, we obviously didn't have anything this time of year, so it really puts into context how far we've come as a nation, more than anything with regards that it's kind of coming back to normality.
Oh God, it is like sure, really you couldn't write for the program that we have this weekend across so many codes, like we've 3 of the 4 Limerick teams out in league action at the weekend, like the senior hurlers, senior footballers, senior camogie. You've a half-day cup final involving a Limerick team, Ardskull Reach. You have a Corn Tommaso Micolim, which is the Munster Senior Hurling B, which is involving a Limerick team again in Scull na Trinade, in Doon, who are playing Charleville, who would have a Limerick element as well. And if that is not enough, like it kicks off tomorrow with the C semi-final involving Kalashi Joseph Kilmallock and Ennis Diamond CBS. So like and not to mention, of course, that Limerick's involvement in the Sigerson and the Fitzgibbon Cups, and that great result that the UL Sigerson Cup team under Declan Bruder got last night from in that victory over Queens of Belfast. And it was very, very interesting in that particular one. And I know you might be dwelling on it a bit later, Jack. I suppose it would be unthinkable a couple of years ago. But like there was Limerick players on both teams last night, believe it or not. You had Paul Maher, who was captaining UL, and you had Gordon Brown, who was playing at wing back for Queen's University. So it's a huge weekend, and really we're getting into the meaty section of the playing action at the moment. And look, in comparison and in contrast with what we've had for the last 2 years, Jack, isn't it just wonderful?
Yeah, it is wonderful, and we'll start with the Hurlers, who have been wonderful over the last, I suppose, 4 or 5 years. At this stage, a trip to Wexford in round 1, this Sunday at 1:45. It's the 3rd time in 5 seasons that we're starting in Wexford. Obviously, in 2017, Wexford got to win Dave Fitz's first game in charge. It was also John Kiley's first league game in charge, and how times have been good to us since. But it'll be very exciting, Matt, because even though we saw great hurling in January, we won the Munster Hurling Cup, it'd be great to see some of the probably more known faces back in action. Like we won't have Keane Lynch probably, who was with NUIG, and a few more playing the Fitzgibbon Cup with the likes of Sean Finn, Aaron Galland, these lads that have become staple names, just to see them in action once more.
Yeah, it will be fantastic, and you're right there about we've heard John Kiley has drummed it on and on and on about the importance of players playing with their colleges, and of course he's absolutely right, So he and his management team, they have the job of juggling between sorting out the players' commitments, because we've quite a number of players of the squad that are involved with UL. And actually, there is even more of the squad involved with UCC. In that the Boylan brothers and Ronan Connolly are among a host of Limerick players that are involved with UCC, along with Jack Bryan of Doon and William Hen of Napirshick, and the two lads from Mahan, Kieran Barry, who has played in every game in the Fitzgibbon Cup so far, and Padraic Hartnett. So, obviously they're not all on the panel, but there's quite a few. Brian O'Grady is involved with UL, and certainly without wanting to preempt your next question or anything, Brian O'Grady, in my view, is one of those people that during the Munster Senior Hurling Cup really put up his hand for a place on the Limerick team in Wexford on Sunday.
Yeah, he probably has been brilliant for both UL and for Limerick this year with those performances in midfield. I know we're always second guessing John Kiley, and more often than not we're wrong, but how do you feel he will set out with his team this Sunday? Will it be more giving those fringe players a chance, or will it be closer to the team we saw against Cork last year, or a mix of both probably?
I think he'll probably opt for a mix of both, Jack, but to what extent, I don't honestly know. You know, you can go position by position, and really you'd be only really scratching your head, but just generally, Richie English, had a couple of tremendous performances during the Munster Cup campaign. Absolutely fantastic. If you were sitting down to pick the Limerick team to go to Wexford on Sunday, and you're using the two games in Munster as the criterion for determining who should be on and who should not, how could you omit Colin Coughlin after the performances that he put on? Absolutely splendid performances. The same would go to a certain degree for Brian O'Grady, as we've already mentioned. And what about David Reedy, who hasn't nailed a regular spot in the team, but has scored a phenomenal 126 in 2 games, Jack? That's 27 scores in 140 minutes.
We've come to expect that, though, from David Reedy, and we've said it so many times. A lot of these Limerick players would start in other counties, the ones that are probably more fringe players with us. But one thing is for sure, whatever team he picks, it'll be a strong Limerick side that goes to Wexford on Sunday.
Oh, it will be. It will be a strong. It'll be a strong side, and the team is to be named on Thursday night, I understand, and when we see when we see the composition of the team, we'll get a fair barometer as to what Limerick's approach to the league is going to be. I think it will be in contrast to last year, because as we said on a number of times, there was no opportunity last year due to the absence of the pre-season competitions to run the rule over players. John Kiley has had that benefit, albeit with just 2 games this year, but he will have learned quite a bit from the 2 games. Maybe not so much from the game against Kerry, because it was one-sided. It was a David Goliath kind of a clash. But he will have learned quite a bit about what a lot of his fringe players and his new players have to offer following that performance in Clare, because that was a tough test. Anytime you go to Clare, and it's the first of 3 games with Clare this year, 3 competitive games. We go there again in the league, we go there again in the championship, but it put down a very, very firm marker.
Yeah, it did. And I suppose the league is probably going to take on more of a meaning this year, and everyone will say Limerick's main priority is the championship, and there's no one denying that. But on one side of the coin, you have to strike while the iron is hot. We had a lot of barren years in Limerick with no trophy, so as many as you can win, you're going to go from. And also, there's very little time between the league and championship, so it's going to be important to hit the ground running, because if you have a poor league campaign, you're under pressure going to Cork in the first round of Munster.
Yeah, that's exactly it, Jack. That sums it up, because you have to go to Cork with momentum. You have to go to Cork, because Cork, Cork will be fueled with motivation following last year's All-Ireland final. Like they will see that they didn't do themselves justice. Now we'll get an opportunity to play Cork in the meantime, of course, in the league,
Yeah, obviously this weekend it's Wexford away. Then just off the top of my head, it's Wexford away. Then it's Galway at home. Then you've Cork at home, Clare in Ennis again, and you round off the campaign at home to Offaly. Realistically, Limerick are favourites to win the league, but it's definitely a harder group than the other group. With no disrespect to teams on the other side, but it is the harder of the one Division 1 groups.
Realistically, Jack, Limerick are favourites to win everything they enter at the moment, and why shouldn't there be? 3 All-Irelands in 4 years, 12 All-Stars in 1 year, a total of 17 All-Stars in the panel. Where do I stop?
Keep going.
If that doesn't warrant favouritism, I don't know what does. But yeah, they probably will be favourites. And like. I believe that they will approach the league differently this year, because, as I said, they had the opportunity in pre-season last year. They didn't have it, and plus the fact that it runs into the championship. There's very, very little gap between the league and the championship, and the joust with Cork and Páirc Uí Chaoimh, there's nothing better to focus minds.
Yeah, and just a bit on Wexford, because obviously under new management, Darragh Egan from Tip is the new manager. They were beaten well in the Walsh Cup final by Dublin, but Darragh, I would imagine, will have seen Limerick are coming to Wexford in the first round of the league. Let's lay down a marker. And they showed in 17, beat Limerick. In 19, in Limerick's first game since winning All-Ireland, Limerick had to fight really hard for that win. I think it was 2-11 to 117. But going to Wexford in the first round of the championship is far from ideal, really.
Yeah, going to Wexford, and at any time, if you're expecting to get off to a winning start, isn't ideal. It's a very, very, very tough place to go. But if in terms of form and what's likely to happen, all we can judge on is what we've seen already this year. And what we've seen already this year is that we've seen Limerick cruise through the Munster Senior Hurling Cup. We've seen we've seen a very indifferent performance in the Walsh Cup by Wexford. They beat Laois, they drew with Kilkenny, and they got seriously turned over. Was it by 16 points by Dublin in the final? And I was just going through them. I was just comparing the Wexford team with the Limerick team in terms of how many likely frontline players were involved in the respective finals. Jack, Wexford were very, very close. Like Clare, they had an awful lot of their first line players on board, far more than Limerick.
Yeah, I suppose if Dublin on the other side of the coin are looking like the Limerick of Leinster, they've hit the ground flying, and the potential is obviously there in Dublin. We've seen with footballers what they can do. So if Dublin can get their house in order this year, they'll be a real threat. I have two questions here, Matt, for you in a second. But before we go on to them, just on the game, you were obviously favouring Limerick. Do you think it's going to be a big win for Limerick, or just get the job done?
I didn't say a big win, Jack.
No, that's I'm wondering. When you say they're favourites in every game, I'd imagine you think they're going to win, but you think it'll be a big win, or just get? I
don't. I don't, and I've in many ways qualified it by saying how difficult a place Wexford is to go.
Yeah, definitely.
There is no easy game in Wexford Park. We saw that in 2017. We saw that in 2019. But Jack, leaving Wexford Park and in 2017, you were sort of envious of where Wexford were to have picked up that vital win, because and at that particular stage, that was Division 1B. And of course, it was, the holy grail for Limerick to get out of it. And virtually, once you lost one game, like there were 3 contenders in that particular year, in that particular league, if you remember, 3 standout contenders in 1B. There was Wexford, Limerick, and Galway.
Who are all Ireland champions.
Yeah,
oh, no,
and
sorry, they wouldn't be. Sorry.
Wexford beat Limerick, and lo and behold, they went on to Salt Hill the following week and beat Galway.
Yeah.
So Division 1B was over. But look, if you contrast the fortunes of Limerick and Wexford since, like, there is a dramatic disparity.
Yeah, there is. So, in a few words, how do you think the game is going to go?
I think Limerick will win, but it won't be easy.
Yeah, I'd be going along that. It's never easy going to Wexford Park. On Saturday in the same group, you have Cork and Clare. Which way do you see that one going?
I think Cork will probably win it, because if the Munster Senior League told us anything about Clare, it really told us about the influence and the importance of Tony Kelly.
Yeah.
There are 2 Clares. There's Clare with Tony Kelly on board, and Clare without Tony Kelly. I think Cork will share that one.
Yeah, 2 teams that have been pretty much humbled by Limerick in the last 2 months. So it'll be interesting to see who can kind of get over.
Actually tumbled in the last 2 finals.
Yeah, but I'd say we'll look back in years gone and years past and say, when you were beaten by that Limerick team around this time, that was no indication of where you were at. It was more of where Limerick at. But that remains to be seen. The hindsight is 2020. The other game of the group is on on Sunday as well. Galway versus Offaly. You'd imagine straightforward enough for Galway.
Yeah, that'll be very interesting. Particularly on the sideline, Shefflin against Fennelly. That will be a very, very interesting aspect of it. That will be a sideshow to it. But you'd have to go. You'd have to go with Galway. But again, then you just wonder. Henry Shefflin, to a degree, has a similar conundrum with NUIG. They're going so well, and a couple of their key players, the like of Jack Fitzpatrick, Evan Nyland, Brian Concannon, like they're key players. Whether they will be involved with Galway or not, that will be interesting. And of course, it will be Galway's first full season without Joe Canning. So it'll be interesting to see. That'll be an interesting game. There's a certain amount of momentum with Offaly, Jack. Yeah. But I'm going for Galway to win that one.
Yeah, I'm sure Henry wouldn't mind picking up a certain Limerick man from that NUIG team, but that's not how it works. I suppose
he can keep his hands off him.
In Group 1B, Tipleash, Kilkenny, Antrim. I know Tip have been poor this year, but you'd imagine them to get over the line against Laois and Kilkenny to do the same against Antrim.
Yeah, I'd imagine so, yeah.
And probably one of the most intriguing games weekend is Dublin versus Waterford, and just to see, like, are Dublin a real threat this year, or was the Walsh Cup a flash in the pan?
This is going to be the test. But whatever conundrum Henry Shefflin and John Kiley have Liam Cahill has a similar one in with his Ballygunner players.
True, very true.
So it's one that Dublin could win, Jack.
Yeah, with form.
But I suppose should be remiss of us when we're speaking about the county senior hurling teams, not to acknowledge and mention and pay tribute to the great Padraic Maher, who retired during the week, and I think what saddens me, I'm sad to see one of the great hurlers going off the stage, but I'm also very sad to see the way in which he has gone off the stage. That it wasn't of his own making, that he picked up an unfortunate injury, and that he has now retired from due to medical advice. And certainly when you talk about great defenders and when you rate great defenders of this generation, or indeed of any generation, Jack, Padraic Maher is right up there with him. Right up there. A fantastic, absolutely fantastic player. And I suppose we saw him, we've seen him many times against Limerick, but I suppose in the Munster final last year, despite the pressure that they came under in the second half, Padraic Maher still held his own, and they were hit by a tsunami, a Limerick tsunami in that second half, and that has been well chronicled. But Padraic Maher still held his own. He's an absolutely fantastic, fantastic servant to the game. A fantastic loss to Tipperary. But Jack, Padraic Maher is a loss to the game of hurling.
Yeah, he's a huge loss. I think he made his debut. I think it was in 08 he made his debut, and I don't think he's missed the game since then. I think he started every championship game. I think he only missed maybe 20 minutes of one game. I think he went off with an injury. Like, he was just a ever present. And for Colin Bonner, without Padraic and Brendan Maher, like, that Tipperary team looks a lot more fragile, and they've shown that without them two boys, like, they may just struggle this year. But it's obviously an opportunity for someone else to step up in his shoes.
Tipperary coming down from the high of 2019, and we have discussed this, that the big names, the leaders on that Tipperary team are probably past their best, and now that there's a two after exiting the stage. And the big problem with Tipperary, Jack, they seem to have plenty of hurlers, but they seem dramatically short of leaders.
Yeah, and that's
where are the new leaders? I quite honestly, I don't see them coming yet. No. That might all change under Colin Bonner this year, but I think we flagged it in the past. And certainly, I suppose it was never more evident than in the Munster final last year. They, maybe apart from Padraic Maher, and I think they're down now to just three players from that 2010 All Ireland winning team that are still around. So that includes Noel McGrath, Bonner Maher.
Yeah, it's a completely different team, but I suppose.
And Seamus Callanan is the third one.
They do have young players coming through that, if they can get those leaders in, that they definitely have the capabilities. They're always going to produce good hurlers in the Prairie, there's no doubt about that. But one of their best is gone, and we wish him the very best luck in retirement. If I'm right,
absolutely, the very best. He gave us great entertainment over the years as a hurler.
Yeah, I think he works in Limerick as a guard. If I'm not wrong, I know he's a guard, but I'm fairly sure he works in Limerick. So, you may see him on the street, so you might wish him the best in retirement. So anyways, that's moving on from Tipperary. We have a question here from Adrian Kelly before we move on from the hurling. Who do you think is in pole position for the corner forward berth vacated by Peter Casey at the moment, given we haven't seen Graham Mulcahy in action yet? I'll leave you start with that, man. What's your thinking on that one?
Very, very good question. Very, very good question. Like, it's probably too soon. It's probably too soon for Adam English, and there probably is no standout performer. Pat Ryan had a decent, had a very decent Munster Cup campaign. Whether he could into corner forward, I'm not sure. As I said earlier in this cast, Jack, depending on the All Ireland winning team that John Kiley chooses to recall, a place has to be found, I think, for David Reedy. And would he move into the corner forward position? Possibility. Oisin O'Reilly was tried there twice. You know,
I thought Darren O'Connell was the standout.
To me, it would be possibly between Ryan O'Reilly and David Reedy, in my opinion.
Yeah, I thought Darren O'Connell, to be honest, was the standout player in the Munster Cup in that inside forward line. I think Dave Reedy.
Yeah, Dan had a very, very good Munster Cup campaign, and he really stepped up to the plate against Clare.
Yeah.
Which was the tougher of the two games.
Yeah, I think Dave Reedy, I don't think John Kiley will want to move around the system. He's a brilliant backup to have to Hegarty, Lynch and Morrissey. And if one of them isn't going well, that Reedy could slot in there. I think it is probably down to Darren, Pat Ryan, Oisin O'Reilly, and we saw last year that he wasn't afraid to give Cathal O'Neill his first start in Salt Hill, a few weeks removed from the Leaving Cert. So there's nothing to say. Adam English, who, even though he's the same age as Cathal O'Neill last year, he's that year ahead. He's in his first year of college. He's probably more of an adult, if you get me, along his life. Cathal O'Neill is another one, but I think Cathal O'Neill is more of a wing forward, I think, than an inside forward. But
I agree with you there, Jack. I think he's more of a wing forward, and for that reason, I would see him possibly in the role that you have spelled out there for David Reedy, is back up to the front line, half forward line.
Yeah, but I suppose Aaron Gillan was an out-and-out half forward when he came through, out and out half forward, till John Kiley got hold of him and made him into one of the best inside forwards. So there's nothing to say that John Kiley won't do that again. I think half forward, you have Conor Boylan is a very experienced championship player. So is Dave Reedy. So maybe they are thinking we need to make a new corner forward or give one of these lads a chance. So it'll be interesting to see. And obviously, if Graham Mulcahy said he's ready to go after Kilmallock's stint in Munster, he'll be the first named team sheet. I do feel
Graham will be first, and we should say that most of the Kilmallock players are not back in the panel yet, for the simple reason that they've got a break. Those that were involved with Limerick last year have got a break because of the protracted season. So that's possibly the reason why Graham Mulcahy and Aaron Costello and Barry Hennessy, Robbie Handley are not involved, for Sunday. Well, they're not back yet, I understand anyway.
Yeah. Look, a well-deserved break. What I will say is, finishing on that point, I do feel sorry for Barry Murphy, because he seemed to be in prime position. When Peter Casey came off in the All-Ireland last year, you got that sense that it was a serious injury, just the way he went down with not really anyone around him. It just looked worrying, and you were thinking, Barry Murphy came on that Ireland final, that it was the Barry Murphy we saw burst onto the scene in 18, but obviously he suffered the same fate. So look, there's a chance there for someone to take the position. It'll be interesting to see which route John Kiley goes down. We'll move on from the hurling, because we've spent an awful lot of time on that, but we did say last week that we would give the hurling a nice bit of attention. We'll move on to the football, Matt, and as good a start as you'd like from Billy Lee's side in Division 3, 4-9 to 1-11 winners over Longford. Brilliant first half. 3-5 to 7 at half time, but Limerick were 3-5 to 5 ahead. Longford came back, and it showed, I suppose, the resolve of this Limerick team, that when Longford came within 2, Limerick were able to break up the length of the field and get that crucial fourth goal. And we know how crucial goals are in football, because it's so hard to kick 3 points that you're using a third of the energy to score a goal. Now, they're obviously more difficult, but you know what I mean. So to get a win, to start brilliantly, have a team come back, but have the resolve to secure the win, it really bodes well for Billy Lee's side.
It bodes very well, Jack. It is the kind of start that you would write for. Billy Lee will be absolutely delighted. He is absolutely delighted, and he's entitled to be. And I suppose the most pleasing aspect of it is, Jack, a win is a win, but you touched on it there. When they were under threat in injury time, when Longford got the goal, the way that they responded and closed the game out, and a 4-goal tally is quite impressive. And if you look at this Limerick team, Jack, over the last couple of years, they don't seem to have much difficulty in creating goal-scoring chances. But they have a serious problem in putting them away.
Yeah, and when they get it going,
and that was graphically demonstrated the last time they went to Antrim to play in Corrigan Park.
Yeah.
when they created 5 or 6 clear-cut goal chances and only took one and got seriously turned over as a result. And it came the week of the game after, which they had put, was it 5 past Wicklow and McNeville Park?
Yeah, because when I was just want to say when they get going in front of goals, they can rack up big tallies. That 5 against Wicklow, the 4 against Longford, the 4 against Waterford last year, the 3 against Tip in 2019. That was a kind of breakthrough win. That, as you said, that they're creating these chances, they're not taking them, but when they do, like, they are lethal and they can put up with the best. So it'll be a chance this weekend, a nice segue into this weekend's game against Antrim at 2:30 on Saturday, that it'll be a test to show how far they've come since 2020, that breakthrough year, when they play Antrim, who won Division 4 last year. That they probably know that if we could take our chances like we did against Longford, it'll be 2 from 2, and that's a dream start in Division 3.
That would be an absolutely dream start, and probably in his wildest dreams, deep down, Billy Lee wouldn't have expected that. But there is an opportunity for that to happen. Although I'm slightly doubtful that it will, because I think Antrim are very, 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 very strong, very, very focused under Enda McGinley. Very interestingly, Jack, I was just trying to get a fix on Antrim's league form in particular. And last year, on the way to promotion, they featured in Division 4 North and played three group games and won each one of them by a single point. Wins over Sligo was one of them anyway, Leitrim. But they had a single point to spare. Now they had a decent enough win over Waterford in the semi-final of the league to performance last week, certainly raised eyebrows.
I think we're losing you a small bit there, Matt. I think you're referring to last year's the league performances from Antrim. They obviously started this league campaign with a 114 to 8 points win over Fermanagh. They've obviously been growing over the last 2 years. I think Matt might be back with us. The joys of technology. We were a long time getting this going this morning. They all turn it off and turn it on worked. But I'll just go through the games for this weekend in Limerick's group. Obviously, Limerick and Antrim is on Saturday. The other 3 games are on Sunday. You've Longford versus Louth, Laois versus Westmeath, and Wicklow versus Fermanagh. The round 1 winners were obviously Limerick, Antrim, Westmeath, and Laois, just to kickstart that league campaign. I'm just going to go through a few of the comments here. Liam Wolf says, is Gordon Brown available for Limerick on Saturday? He was obviously playing with Queens. I suppose it brings up that dilemma, and I'd like to get Matt's opinion on this, with players playing games within a couple of days of each other. We obviously, everyone knows about the situation with Tommy Conroy and how that worked. And look, I don't think a player should be playing within 2 days of playing a league game. The likes of Tommy Conroy, we saw it with David Clifford. I suppose Paul Maher is another one that lined out well last night, more close to home. We've seen a good few with Fitzgibbon Cup players playing during the preseason tournaments. Like, they're all established players. Well, maybe not the Limerick lads, but definitely Tommy Conroy, David Clifford. They're all established players for the county. Was there any need for them to be playing Sigerson to be playing with their clubs in the first round of the league? Certainly David Clifford is going to start for Kerry regardless of what's going on. Don't think there's any need to start. Tommy Conroy is obviously vice captain of Mayo this year, and they're now without him. So Liam, I presume Gordon Brown is available. I'm sure he'd be desperately keen to get started with Limerick, because obviously Cian Sheehan played brilliantly at wing back last day, and it's his jersey now, and Gordon probably thinking, I need to get back in and just show what I'm about. But at the same time, you don't want to risk an injury, because if you're injured, you're absolutely no good to anyone. That would be my take on the Gordon Brown thing. On Gordon Brown playing wing back, obviously Cian Sheehan was brilliant there. Robbie Childs was excellent there. Cillian Fahy moved into midfield, scored 1-3 in the first half, including I think the first 1-1 for Limerick. So a lot was made about Limerick losing certain players. Tommy Childs midfield, Killian Fahy has relocated there. Dane Neville has gone from the full forward line. Josh Ryan went in there and played well, and we lost Brian Fanning, and Sean O'Dea went in full back and played excellently. So it's kind of Billy's it's pulling from within the squad already to fill those gaps. It'll be interesting to see how he goes today. I think the team will be named Friday at some stage. A comment in here from Patrick Silk. Limerick need to start well in the league versus Wexford. Yeah, I think it's a given. We know the difficulty of Limerick's group in comparison to the other groups. So look, it will be interesting to see how to get going. As I said, if that last or whatever 5 years ago, Wexford beat Limerick in the start, and then they went on to win the league and get promoted. So look, it's very difficult to see your way back if you don't start well. So Limerick will be desperately keen to get a start. But
The Hart Cup final against Tulla this year, I suppose.
Wexford is a difficult place to go. Just while we're waiting for Matt there, I just played this interview we did during the week with Niall Moore. Obviously, Article Reach play a Hart Cup final against Tulla this Saturday in the Gaelic grounds. That can be streamed live, but it played live at 1 o'clock for anyone to attend. So this was Niall Moore before the game against Tulla this weekend.
Niall Moore ahead of the Hart Cup final against Tulla this year. I suppose starting with the semi-final, as good a comprehensive as win as you're going to get in a semi-final, you're obviously Motor in this stage of the year.
Yeah, I suppose you look at the scoreboard, it was a big score racked up, but I suppose Jack removed the first quarter. Like there was 3-5 scored in the first quarter, we scored 113 thereafter, Hurlers scored 111. Do you know what I mean? So when you put it in the context of that, it kind of really tells you we're realistically at. I suppose the first quarter, like it was a case of Hurlers didn't show up, everything we touched went over, and I suppose is that a realistic parameter of where we're at? It isn't really, like, you know what I mean? So we know going forward there's lots of things that we didn't execute to the fullest of our ability, and we know that even in Tulla we play a team that are the best team by a mile that we've probably played to date. They've beaten all the best teams in this competition. Coleman's, who were champions at this level 2 years ago, beat CBC, who were overwhelming favourites for it, and at both times came from 5 points down, 7 points down respectively, to come back and do it, and then picked off a De La Salle team who were also very well fancied. So we have a huge challenge ahead of us here, and we're well aware of it. I'm not so sure the general public are well aware of it, but we're well aware of it. And like for us to even to be in a chance next day, we'd have to bring our fullest of our game for 60 minutes and not just maybe 15 minutes like we did last day.
Is that a message you're driving in with the lads, that obviously they'll be confident after the semi-final, but there is still plenty of work to do to get over the line?
Well, these boys at 15 level, they were well beaten in a semi-final by Coleman's. At 16.5 level, they were beaten by Coleman's in a final. And as a group, they've won no silverware. So hammering home messages, the hope from ourselves is that we keep on doing what we're doing. Like we play to the best of our ability. The strength of us lies in the group. And I suppose if we don't bring that at 100%, then we will be found out very, very quickly, especially against a team like Tulla, who are, having just seen a couple of their games, are so well organised, really well coached. Terence Fahy, Aidan Hart, guys who've operated at top level there over them. A team that are, you know what I mean, coming huge momentum of all the local parishes. Like there's huge excitement out there, and rightly so. And again, as well as that, then a lot of lads that they have who've played senior hurling with their club. And you can't quantify that kind of experience, where in our case I think we've only one who's tasted a little bit of club hurling. So do you know what I mean? It's a huge challenge. It'll be very exciting for anybody who's going to rock onto the Gaelic grounds there on Saturday. It's well worth the visit.
And you talk about that experience, and even though it's going to be your 6th final in 12 years, it's a totally new group and it's a totally new experience for all those lads.
Yeah, as I said there, these guys haven't played in a Harty final, they haven't experienced a Harty final like that, so the nerves and excitement that they're experiencing in Tulla for the first time is replicated in our school. And I suppose, look, as in, that's the nature of schools, it's transient, and I'm delighted that they're part of that excitement, that they get to experience it, especially after the last 2 years. I know we had a group last year who would have felt that they had a very strong chance in this competition, probably a lot stronger than what we'd have given this group credit for. So yeah, look, it's great, but again, all those challenges from us as a management group and those of the players, they all still lie. Like they have to bring their performance, and if you get caught up in all the side shows, that performance won't come.
Is there any pressure on you as a school appearing in the 6th final against Tulla, who are in their first?
The pressure is, you know, every team has to perform, and again, that's cliched, and the pressure is that whoever doesn't win the next day, despite their glorious run to a final, they have nothing to show for it. And I suppose that's how you'll always be measured when you finish up your career. In a lot of cases, what you've won. I suppose both of us share one thing in common: we've never lost a final. And I suppose in Tulla's case, that means they'll play without fear. In our case, that means we'll play without baggage in that sense. So I think both schools are starting off in a really even keel for it.
And you see Limerick obviously are going so well now, and a lot of former Irish College pupils. Does that give a boost to the team at the moment to know that there is that opportunity for success with a Limerick jersey if they can succeed with our skull?
Yeah, I suppose you have to be realistic. Like even at the moment, Keane Lynch is inside in our teaching staff. But remember Paul Flanagan and Cormac O'Donovan, these guys are members of our teaching staff as well, who currently representing and previously representing Clare. So for all our players, like the nature of our catchment is, you know, we've Limerick lads and Clare lads, and I suppose they've been very fortunate and are very fortunate at the moment to see guys who have won All Irelands at senior level in both, and lads who are currently starring for both counties. So it's a lovely dynamic, and I suppose look, it's at 18, 19 years of age, if lads are going to be making it, it's coming very close to them at that stage.
And when you got over the line in 2010, did you realise that this was possible? That you'd be going for a sixth title in just over 12 years?
Jesus, going back to that, it's 12 years ago actually now. I'd say only for COVID robbed us, we'd have been hoping to have a reunion. Look, they were phenomenal days, even though I was lucky enough to be involved with Derek and Liam and Tallegrady and Jimmy here at LIT, and that was just a magical moment. And I suppose at the time we were in dreamland, and I suppose we can kind of empathise where Tulla are at there now. I suppose Tulla would feel that this is the first time and this is all a new experience, but that's the beauty, that's kind of romance of it. How the thing has moved on in the meantime, yeah, but that comes down to the hard work of all the teachers, all the teaching staff, all the parents. Like there's a huge body of stakeholders, the county board, the local clubs, like facilities wise, equipment wise, financial aid, time wise, all those people are huge stakeholders in anything that we do in art school. And do you know what I mean? I suppose as teachers, look, we enjoyed, we put in time, but without that support, do you know what I mean, we'd be nothing.
Those are the words of Niall Moore ahead of this weekend's Hart Cup final with St. Joseph's Tulla. I've had a few questions in there, and we'll keep it going, Matt. I know Matt. I was on the phone in there while the Niall Moore interview was going, so hopefully he's just trying to reconnect. Look, with internet in the countryside, I know myself from experience, you'd never know what's going to happen. And 171 podcasts in, this is the first time we've had this big break in the middle. So look, we'll keep it going for a few more minutes. Patrick is wondering, he thinks Gerard Hegarty will start, not sure about Tom Morrissey and Aaron Gillan. That Barry Nash is a certainty, is looking, who does he think will start in the defence? I suppose at the start, it looks like it probably be Nicky Quaid will be in goals just to give him that run out. And on Nicky, there's a great documentary on tonight, Laker Gale at 9:30 or 9 o'clock on TG4 tonight. They'll be looking at the legacy and career of Joe Quaid, who two-time All-Star Limerick, just didn't get over the line. Obviously, the losses to Offaly and Wexford in 94, 96, but just a great Quaid family lineage in goals. Obviously, Joe had a really decorated career, and he's gone on to manage the likes of Kerry and Kildare, and he led Kildare back to Division 1 in hurling recently, so that's not to miss. But I think Nicky will get a chance in goals. Obviously, Dave McCarthy did nothing wrong in his first two games, but I think Nicky will get the chance. I have Matt here, so I'll get him in if I can. Can you hear me, Matt? Matt can't hear me, so that's an issue. I don't know how we'll work
Jack.
this now. I'll let Matt talk to you for a second, and I'll just leave and let him talk there. I need to be able to tell him this is how you do stuff off the cuff.
Picture and no sound, Jack.
Yeah, that's what he's saying to you there. I will just ring Matt there for the time being, and I'll probably have to do it live. Look, this is the beauty of doing these things live. I'm going to ring him now and just tell him to talk to you. So I'll just unmute him there for a second. I'll mute myself. Just bear with us for a second.
Hello.
Yeah, again, this is the beauty of live of the live. But I'll head out. I'll see if it's my connection is the problem, and I'll leave Matt to talk to you. Um, you can't hear me, Matt, can you?
You know,
I
speak
don't think
now.
he can. Yeah, he can't hear me. I'm going to leave Matt talk to you.
Hear you. Right. Okay. I think it's us against the Gremlins today, and so far the Gremlins are working. But it has been a hugely interesting week. Both panels, sorry again for the interruption. Both panels were announced this week, and it's a very, very interesting panels. I suppose if you take the ladies' football first, the most striking aspect about the naming of the ladies' football panel, and they're not in action this weekend, but they will be in action the following weekend when they play London at home, and they're involved in a group with three other counties: London, Carlow, and Offaly. And I suppose it's notable. First of all, it was Graham Shine's first panel naming as the new Limerick manager, and he has chosen to recall a considerable amount of the players that were involved in the All Ireland victory of 2018, but for different reasons had dropped off the panel since. And I'm talking about the like of Niamh Ryan is back on the panel, Rebecca DeLee is back, Loretta Hanley, Mairead Kavanagh, Katrina Davis, and Kathy Mee, of course, who was captain in 2018, is a very, very notable return. And Kathy, of course, was the captain in 2018. Now, the captain's armband this year will be worn by Roisin Ambrose, who has given great service both to Limerick Camogie and Limerick Ladies Football. And her vice captain will be Amy Ryan from Ula. It's a very, very, very strong team, and it's a very, very exciting team, and squad. And it is notable also for the inclusion of Karen O'Leary and Deborah Murphy, who are of course, from Monagea, county champions, but who would be more associated with the Limerick Camogie panel, and I'll be talking about that in a second. Another notable feature of the Limerick panel is the fact that there are no Drumculloher Broadford players on the panel. This following they're completing back-to-back county intermediate championship titles, and the reason behind it is that Niamh McCarthy, who was captain for the last 2 years, is taking a year out, and Maeve McCarthy and Anya Cunningham are planning on going travelling. Now, travel was something for the last 2 years that did not impact on either county or club squads. That was due to the pandemic, the enforced pandemic, but it's now back this year, so it is going to be a bit of a conundrum for some clubs, in that there will be an amount of players travelling. But for now, Karen O'Leary and Debbie Murphy are included in the football panel, and certainly it's on merit. They were actually outstanding with Monagea in the county final. But another two notable exclusions. They're not excluded, but they're not available. Are Clínan O'Callagh, who has given great service to Limerick over the years, who got married recently, and Andre O'Sullivan from Ballylanders, who will be spending 9 months in America, abroad. But will be hope to rejoin the panel when she returns in 2023. Another notable inclusion in the panel, of course, is the former Monaghan player, Grania McKenna, who in 2022 will be seen in the colours of St. Ailbe's. And when I was mentioning the players from 2018 that have been recalled, are back, another trio of players who were involved in 2018 but hadn't been involved for the last 2 years were Eva Hartigan, Emer Kirby, and Sarah O'Sullivan, who are also back on the panel. It's a very, very strong panel that Graham Shine has named. It'll be very, very interesting to see what his first lineup will be to play London, because it will be in the context of the league, it will be a very, very important game, and it'll be an important game for a new manager. First day out to get off to a winning start, see how his team knits together and integrates together. But he certainly seems to have the material and dare I say, the woman power to make a good start and get the league up and running. Now, looking at the Camogie panel, it is notable for the exclusion, of course, of Karen O'Leary and Debbie Murphy are not included. Now they're included in the football. Now, what the reason is, I'm not so sure, but perhaps it just may be the travel bug again. So, that's fair enough. And now Marion Quaid has been named as the captain. The vice captain is Aisling Scanlon from Killeedy, who is the only Killeedy player, despite they being beaten county finalists on the panel. Now, I understand that Anna Cunningham may be another one of those that has caught the travel bug for this summer. Now, ironically, the county champions, Newcastle West, have one sole representative on the panel, and that is Rebecca DeLee. Now, Rebecca DeLee, Niamh Ryan, who plays with Bruff and football with St. Ailbe's, Noel Curtin, who plays Camogie with Temple Glanton and plays ladies football with Hatay. They will be the three dual players. Now, Roisin Ambrose, I understand, is going to commit to football only this year, as she has. She'll be donning the captain's armband. So it's very, very interesting. There are a lot of new players that have been promoted to manager John Lillis's Camogie panel. So he's going to be trying out a lot of new players, and we certainly will be looking forward to seeing the like of Ailby Larkin as one that could make the step up. Possibly Megan Ryan, who's named on a development plan. Very, very impressive winners last year. So we could see the like of those girls starting stepping up. But it's a huge task on Sunday. On Saturday. They travel to Callan on Saturday for the opening round of the league against league champions Kilkenny. And, you'll probably think that I'm off my head or something this week and that I haven't complained about something. And I'm just about to do it right now and make up for that deficit in that in the league, Limerick are drawn in a group with Kilkenny, Cork and Clare. And I think that there's something inherently very unfair about a situation whereby you have 3 games and you play the first 2 of them away from home. I think I think there's something seriously wrong with that. I cannot understand why. All right, 3 games, 2 have to be at home or else 2 have to be away. Limerick's case, it's 2 away, fine. But at least sandwich the home game with the 2 away games. Like, you know, the task ahead of John Lillis and his charges and his team is absolutely enormous. You know, it's bad enough and tough enough to have to go to Kilkenny in the opening round. But for your second game to have to travel to Cork, like it's like, you know, the Camogie situation in the country is such that 3 counties, although it may become 4 before long, Tipperary are doing their best to gate crash into that elite group of counties. But like heading the pile for the last number of years have been Kilkenny, Galway and Cork. They're the counties that have really, really stood up in the last now. Tipperary have closed the gap, are closing the gap, and will hope to continue closing the gap and break into that elite preserve. But Limerick have to travel to Kilkenny and have to travel to Cork. I think it's an absolutely huge and an unfair task. But it is what it is, and Limerick just have got to face it, and that's it.
Can you hear me now, Matt?
I see the Gremlins are back, and no, the Gremlins are half gone. Jack is half back. Jack is back with picture, but no sound.
No sound.
We didn't fall out, Jack. No.
I have to leave again. So.
Well, have we to abandon ship this week, Jack? I think we nearly have to abandon ship at this stage, because you know it's unfair. Like, and really, this is down to the service suppliers of broadband at this end, I believe, who are very, very diligent, mind you, but the diligence doesn't stretch beyond ensuring that they issue the bill every month. So, but it's down to the service providers, which I think the broadband is poor in this area today, and it's normally pretty good, but you know it's uncertain today. So I think we have got to take our leave of you for today, and I see Jack is just running an apology there for what has happened, and I concur totally with that. And looking forward to podcast number 172 next week, when we'll have banished the Gremlins, hopefully from Glenroe, definitely from Glenroe, and hopefully Ballysteen.
The impression again we get out with what you put into is like a walk of life. If you're good enough, go out and get it, no more about it.
Not so much control in the centre of the field from Kilkenny as Richie Bennett sends it high and over the bar.
Your mother sends you down to the shop for a pound's worth of goods and she gives you 50 pence. You can't get the pound's worth of goods, can you?
Just about kept in. Oh, well done, Johnny Buckley. To do that to Tomas O'Shea, he deserves to score from here. One of the highlights of the Sunday game.
Limerick went out there from the word go today. No more about it. They made all the running, that was it. Put the ball over the bar and the back of it, and that's it. No ifs, no buts.
Is there much time